What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Bear With Us podcast. I am Frank. Joined with me today is Nas. Nas, how are we feeling, man?
I feel good, baby. I mean, playoff month is like the best. NFL playoff month, so great. I put it right up there with anything. So many good games, like all the intricacies, breaking it down. I've been living, breathing football. I love it.
I know, me too. And it's the NFL playoffs are so different. I think in the same way that March Madness is. This isn't a 5-game series. This isn't a 7-game series. Like, I think that's what makes even though the Chiefs have been super successful, it at least gives you a sense of parity because it's one game and they're like sometimes you're just skating by a little lucky break here, a fucking bounce off of the face mask to a reception here. Like, it adds this thing where even if there is one team that's like consistently winning, it still gives you this thing to come back to. Because you can, even if you're lying to yourself a little bit, you can convince yourself that, hey, this team has a chance,
100%. Just like we're in the show. We're in the show. Like all we gotta do, if they have an off day, like, oh, this is the best
Yep.
team. Like if they're just not their A game, we bring ours. Like we're right here. Or like there's been at least a couple games where like the team that was playing like shit just like hung around just long enough and like
Yep.
and then kind of got back into it and won the game. And it was just like, man, it's just like the forever hope that you get. And I mean, I think the heartbreak is equivalent when you're like, holy fuck, like we got this, we got control of the game, and then you lose it in an instant, and it's just like, wow, the emotion part of it is crazy. If I was a Baltimore fan right now, I would probably. There's no way I've been sadder.
I
No way.
know. It sucks. And you know what? I know it wasn't on the official docket. Can we talk about the games this past weekend? Because I have some takes. We probably even
100%.
texted about it in the group chat, but I am so surprised on two different arenas, I guess, with the Baltimore game plan. One, the game plan itself, to only hand the ball off to running back 6 times is fucking inexcusable. That's crazy to me. I mean, you just completely shut down your identity for whatever reason. So, I mean, I don't think you don't have to dive into that. That's just malpractice. But the other thing was Lamar, he looked like he was playing to disprove to people that he could play in the pocket. Because, and I don't say that because, I feel like the casual take, people who don't, know ball that much, is like, oh, well, like, why isn't he running? And like that, while that's true, when you really look, like, layer it and look at it, the Chiefs they weren't setting the edge. They were pinning their ears back and like closing the pocket on him, or he could have rolled out or stepped up and ran. They didn't have a care in the world about him running. Now, I don't know if that was like sort of a game plan to say like, we'll let you run 20-20 and then we'll start setting the edge and make you pass it, in the red zone type of thing. I don't know, but it was very clear they didn't do anything to stop that. But then it was like, why didn't anyone get in Lamar's ear? I don't know if you're Harbaugh, if you're Munkin or someone, and just say, dude, especially come second half, you're a one-read quarterback today, right now. For these next 30 minutes, if your first read isn't there, you fucking run because they're not trying to stop it. And like, it just seemed like he was so dead set on proving to everyone he could beat the Chiefs while he was still in the pocket. And to that point, you have to put your hat, take your hat off to the Chiefs defense and Spags for confusing the fuck out of him, because he had so much time in the pocket and he just could not find open guys. Like, he was confused all night. But it was so strange to see him play that way.
I couldn't agree more. I definitely think there was a mindset issue, and then I also think there's tiers to this. And Mahomes, especially in these last 2 seasons, has finally reached it. This death by 1,000 cuts. If I need to do it, I can do it, and I'm willing to do it. Not like Mahomes lacked the ability to throw the ball and matriculate down the field. It was he's made the choice that we can do it and win this way. I don't need to be explosive version of me. And I think what kind of got lost in the Baltimore game plan was Patrick Mahomes is on the other side, but they're thinking of the first 4 years Mahomes, not the last 2 years Mahomes. And we got when actually what they needed to do was what they've been doing all season. This was always going to be a 1 to 2 possession game. It was never going to be something where, oh, they're going to put up 34 or 42 on us. That wasn't what was going to be the game. And I mean, yeah, I think Lamar's going to learn from it for sure. Like, he's going to learn that he doesn't need to do that every single game. I wish he took the yards for betting purposes because I had his over at like 61 and a half. And I was fucking furious. But I think Monken, boy, you better get your shit together because everyone was shitting on Greg Roman for a whole year. And you came out with this game plan, buddy. You better come back with real season long adjustments and play the game the way it's like that way it's scripting out. Don't make it a game that it's not. It wasn't ever going to be a 35-38 game. It was never going to be that. And they were treating it like that. They treated a 10-point deficit like it was 20.
I know. I mean, it was a tie game and they were still treating it that way. It was like, it was so strange that like, I just would love to know their mindset of, did they think, I don't know, did they think they just had to be ultra aggressive to keep up with them? And then it's like, at that point, you're showing zero faith in your defense, who performed so well, especially in the second half. Like, it was weird because there was never a point in that game where it made sense to abandon the run. Because we're talking about lucky breaks and things that can happen in these playoffs. Like, even with that awful game plan, if Zay Flowers doesn't fumble, let me not say it that way.
They played like shit, and it was still a game.
It was a game. They lost by one possession. Like, so like to abandon your game plan in that manner is just, it's strange. It was very weird. But that Detroit game, man,
oh my God.
Can I just say this though before we even dig into anything? I find it very weird. There was a lot of online noise about, I can't believe Bears fans and Packers fans and Vikings fans are like rooting for the Lions. And it's like, I wasn't necessarily rooting for them. I wasn't not rooting for them though. Like, they're the fucking Lions. Dude, they've had no success at all in our lifetime. Like, I have no reason to hate the Detroit Lions other than the fact that they're in our division. Like, you can say, okay, you're not supposed to like them, but like, they've had no success ever. The fact that like, I saw Bears fans actively like, yeah, fuck them. I'm like, okay, you could be, be happy that they lost because they're a division rival. Oh, I get it. But to like go that far and like to start talking trash to their fans, like, when have they ever been like, why do you have hate to it? It was so strange to me.
This was the oddest take I had seen over the playoff stretch. Rooting against the Lions made no sense to me. One, this is never going to happen again. Just how they melted. This is let's just be happy for these guys. This is a nice little run that they're having. They're the Lions. Like, it's gonna be another 30 years before they make a run like this, guys. Let's just enjoy what's happening for them. Feel good for the city of Detroit. I felt bad for Eminem, shout out. But I mean, it was like, I don't think of them as rivals in any way.
I know.
Like, I don't think of them, like, I have no ill intent towards the Detroit faithful. I hope you had a great run and you enjoyed this team. You got a coach that is really easy to root for. You got Jared Goff. How easy is it to root for that guy?
I know.
The former number one pick gets dumped by his former franchise and then makes it to the NFC Championship game with another one. Like, that's a redeeming story. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
All these great vibes. Why root against this?
I know.
It's the Lions.
It was very weird that was the sentiment. Like, Green Bay, I'm with it. We're all with it. Come on now. Vikings fans are with it. Lions fans, we're always gonna root against them in the postseason. The Lions, I mean, especially if you're a Cubs fan. Like, how the fuck can you be a Cubs fan and like look at the Lions and be like, yeah, fuck them. Like, just rip their throats 100%. Out, rip their hearts out.
So how'd you feel about that third down run play in the red zone?
Listen, Dan Campbell made quite a few questionable decisions. The only one that I didn't think was questionable was the field goal at the end of the first half. You take the points there. I think I thought the people criticizing him there were that was weird. For me, it just like represented like finality. This was the end of the half, total domination. We're guaranteed points here. Let's do it. The third down run was awful. The going forward on fourth down, granted, the run was bad. I won't change my mind there. I go back and forth on those fourth downs, especially the first one, because the players got to make the plays. Like the drop passes. I'm blanking on what happened on the second one. Goff got pressured. It was just a straight incompletion, right? It wasn't a drop. So that's tough to justify. But I don't know, man. I still think I'm taking the points.
So people are kind of, it feels like they're going either ways. Like you pick a side. Are you the aggressor that you're going to go for it on fourth down, or are you going to take the points? And it's just like, I don't know how much analytics like takes into account. Like I'm not a sports journalist looking into this stuff. I don't know how much analytics takes this into account, but I gotta think, especially in the second half, you have to think about what number of possessions feasibly both teams are going to have at a certain point. I really do think not trying to go for a 3-possession game when the Niners were reeling and you were moving the ball on them. I really felt like that was the decision. Like I know and by the way, the analytics said it was 90.8% if you went for it on that 4th down, or 90.3. So the margin was very slim on whatever decision you decided to make. So I think you just got to take a step back as a coach in that moment and just decide, okay, we're mid 3rd quarter. They're probably going to have 3 to 4 possessions. We might have 3 to 4 possessions. They have not stopped us from scoring really at all. And we already have 27 points while they have 10. So it's like, are they really going to get to 27 and we're going to stay at 27? Like, I just got to think in my mind, I take the points and not particular scenario. And then the 3rd down run, like, wow, all-time blunder. I don't think anybody who was in analytics, anybody not in analytics, all agree that was like the most egregious play call that you could have in that moment.
Yeah, there's no even back and forth with that one. The 4th down stuff, people have chalked it up that that's just who Dan Campbell is. Totally get it. Don't necessarily agree, but get it. The 3rd down run was awful. On the flip side, the Niners are such a weird team to me, and I think it all revolves around Brock Purdy because people have such extreme views on him. I will say, without putting my opinion in it, because it could change next week, because where I'm at is he's gotten pretty lucky. Drop picks, the face mask thing, the longest completion of the game for him. He's going to be facing the most exotic defense that he's played this postseason. If he goes out there, and I don't think they're going to drop picks. If they give him the ball, the Chiefs are very good at taking the ball away. He has a chance here to just show, hey, look, I really am the guy. Because let's make no mistake, I know people are being harsh with some of the almost takeaways. Everyone has almost takeaways. You know what I mean? And it usually doesn't seem to be. It's not like a consistent thing where he's making these mistakes and he's just getting lucky every now and then. But what I'm curious to see is how is he really going to diagnose these stunts? How is he going to diagnose these blitzes? Because that's what we just saw Lamar not be able to handle in the slightest. And, Kyle is going to do his best to prepare Purdy, but there's going to be certain things that Kyle isn't going to be able to account for. It just is what it is. It's the quarterback versus these 11 across from him. So I'm very curious to see the game plan on both sides. Well, I mean, really, I think we know Spags' game plan. He's gonna blitz the fuck out of Purdy, and see if he can handle it.
I think Kyle needs to look at that Baltimore game and not make the same mistake. I know for me, from a betting standpoint, on the touches between Debo and McCaffrey, I'm taking the overs. I think Kyle is super real in this regard. He is not brainwashed as to who Purdy is. And he's going to try to put him in a position that makes him the most successful. He's not going to pull what the Ravens just did. They are going to run the ball, and like always, they're going to use that running game as the base for everything else that they do. And I don't think it will come down to Purdy until the end, and we'll see if he answers the call. I think he'll make a mistake here and there, like he kind of always does, but like he's proven to be pretty fucking resilient. So I do think I see this game coming down to the wire, and it's going to be, can Purdy get them down the field in a crucial moment, and then will Mahomes have that chance or not at the end?
I also wonder when it comes to Shanahan's game plan going into this game, is he going to, I mean, you don't, no one cares about durability with a running quarterback in the Super Bowl. This is one game, you fucking win it. I'm seeing is how well he scrambled last week. I'm curious to see if they just add a ton of RPO as well to try to, keep the blitzes at bay. Because if you, especially you're talking like interior blitzing, if they do a lot of that and you do RPO and you give Purdy that edge, he's very clearly athletic enough to take advantage of it. So
100%.
To me, this is like, I don't often nerd out on the super game plan things of other teams that are not the Bears. And then really when it's the Bears, it's just fucking critiquing the 7th screen that we've seen that day. But I think we're really going to see a battle between Spags and Shanahan. And I'm so curious to see what they do, just and how they counter in game as well. Like we may it may be one of those things where their initial plan, one is working for one side, one isn't, and then the second half is a totally different ball game.
I'm actually what I'm really interested to see is between Kyle and Andy, who puts in more useless plays in their game plan.
Ooh,
Like just because like they both love themselves a little trickery.
yep.
And for some whatever reason, especially when you're playing a good team, every time either of them do some sort of shit like that, it fucking shuts down the whole drive. And I'm just like, can they refrain? Can they hold it in? Can they just hold it in and stop with the bullshit? Stop with the direct snaps to fucking Pacheco or the sweeps to McCole Hardman or like all that shit. Like, can we take it out of the game plan and just be us?
Yep.
And I wonder between the two of them who can refrain from doing that. I really do think whoever does more of like what their identity truly is going to win the game.
I agree. If I was a betting man, I would bet that Kyle can refrain from it. Not only because Andy Reid and Matt Nagy both like to get cute in the worst times, but I think the Niners can win this game just playing old school smash mouth, give it to McCaffrey 40 times. Like, I'm not saying they will and that's going to happen. I'm just saying he has a little bit more to rely on. I don't think the Chiefs have that run game. Pacheco is a good running back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a good change of pace, but they can't rely on that. So if they feel like they have to do some of these things to open up what the Niners are doing on defense, you know, they just from a schematic or just a personnel standpoint, they may be forced to, or they may feel like they're forced to give them different looks.
Yeah, I think the way the Chiefs win this is they got to do pretty much what they did that first half against Baltimore, and just kind of very similar to what the Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl was, the one that the one that ended with the Malcolm Butler pick at the end. If you watch Brady that whole game, like he actually realizes we are not going to get any deep shots. And I am just going to have to will us down the field time and time again. And I think it's going to be a similar scenario for Patrick, like for Mahomes.
Yeah.
I don't see how they're not going to beat them over the top. Can he be disciplined, make the right reads, get down the field, run the ball, possession game? I took the over like prematurely. I'm kind of regretting it. Like the more we're talking about
Oh,
this,
I know.
I don't feel like either team's going to score that much.
I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I feel like anytime we think that, the opposite happens. You know, it's
right.
You never really know, because all it's going to take is one team to get a 2-possession lead where the other one just goes ultra aggressive, and then they're both going to be going at it. And both of these teams have the ability to be high octane. So
right.
I don't know. We'll see, man.
No one wants to root for an under. That's like,
yeah, that's true.
Boring as shit.
That is very true. Cool. We have another week, obviously, until the Super Bowl is here. But speaking of coordinators and game plans and yada yada, we have a finalized staff here with the Chicago Bears.
Let's go.
And so let's just I'll read them off really quick. So the Bears hired Shane Waldron to be the offensive coordinator. Passing game coordinator is Thomas Brown, who was a fucking sneaky great hire. I love that hire. Yeah. Quarterbacks coach, Kerry Joseph. I don't know much about him, but it sounds like people around the league are very high. It sounds like another really good hire. Wide receiver coach, Chris Beatty. Running backs coach, Chad Morton. Offensive line coach, and it seems like one of the few that were actually retained is Chris Morgan. I'm a little iffy on that one, but that is the staff. Obviously, there's other things going on, but those are the major ones. Nas, I think obviously we start with Shane Waldron. What are you? Well, this is just the offensive side of the ball. I know we signed a defensive coordinator too that is not listed here. We can get to him. What were you feeling about Shane Waldron? How did you like the hire?
I felt like we have like an adult in the room.
Yes.
Kind of thing. It's like, okay, based on this guy's history, he is gonna evaluate who's in the QB room, what they can do well, what they can't do well, and he is going to design an offense. And granted, he's not going to do it perfectly. There are definitely some knocks against Waldron, and I also think that what's going to end up happening is he's going to cater the offense to whatever QB we end up with does best, which I think is going to be Caleb. So the Waldron hire, I would guess, I wouldn't say excited, I would say satisfied.
Same. I'm right there with you, and I would even say I'm a notch into the excited range because, you hear some of the Seattle beat guys and they had their qualms with him, but we were texting this too. Watching the Baltimore game, I just have this thing where I think like 90%, if not higher, of local fans, like fans of a team and local beat reporters, they don't like their offensive coordinator, or they get like super pissed, at these bad habits that they may have. But I land more so in your range that like an adult's here. He's ran an offense before, he's called plays before, and that was my biggest thing when we were talking about the list of the interviewed candidates a couple weeks ago. I was like, I just want someone who's done it before. I don't want another coordinator to come in here, then we have to guess, can he be good at this? That's not we need to establish just an adult offense. But then when I watched the Baltimore game, and everyone was like, hot and cold throughout the year on Munkin. Like, is he good? And is he really great for Lamar? Is he better than Greg Roman? And yada yada, the whole thing. And I just came to the conclusion that like these offensive coordinators, especially ones, I mean, if Shane Waldron, if people didn't have these doubts or questions or whatever you want to call them, he would be a head coach right now because he didn't get fired. It was just a unique situation in Seattle, which honestly, why we were able to get him. So I'm grateful for it. But at the end of the day, he wasn't in any head coach talk. He went immediately for OC interviews. But I say all that to say I feel like that's just what offensive coordinators are. And when they're not that, when they're not like adult, well, the good ones anyway, or even like the above average ones, they're like the adult, I've called plays before, I maybe get too cute here or there or whatever. It's more about execution and more about like teaching your players how to execute, where you need to be, timing and all of that. And that's where we saw Lou Getsy fail the most, because schematically on paper you could see it. You're like, you've been around, you have a thing, but you're not. I don't think you were a very good teacher. I don't think you're very good at executing. It was that was. I felt like I saw that a ton, even in the Lions game. Like Ben Johnson can't control those drops. He got those players open. He schemed those players open. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think we're getting that with Waldron, which makes me very excited. So I had this take last week that would have ran much better, but the other thing that was pretty cool, and this is just a layer, like who cares? It's not important, but it didn't give away what we wanted to do at quarterback.
No,
he's worked with similar, players to, I mean, you think like what he did with Geno, I could see Waldron having a turnaround with Justin Fields in that same manner. Like it's maybe not similar skill sets per se, but like just the narrative around them, and are they bust and are they not good, and people have given up on them. But then you think about like the other high level players that he didn't necessarily call plays for them, but that he's coached. It's like, all right, that could be Caleb too. You know what I mean? It's so that was pretty cool. But moving on, this is the tell. Nas, you tell me if you feel different. That I think they're going Caleb. The passing game coordinator what was the one for me, because we didn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. We didn't have one last year, did we? Or like in the tenure of Justin Fields, I don't think we had one.
Right.
So that to me signifies who, again, passing game coordinator Thomas Brown. You want an extra, set of eyes and ears in the room with the new quarterback, with a young rookie quarterback, to help him along in his development. Did you get that same sort of feel with it?
Yeah. The passing game coordinator, didn't he come? He came from Washington. Was that?
I don't know where his last stop was, but he was a few years ago, he was the Panthers OC, and he was a hot head coach candidate that year. That was 3 years ago now, and it sort of fizzled out with him. I forget his last stop though.
Let me just peek it. The moment I saw passing game coordinator, I was like, wait, we're considering this a position for the Bears? Like,
yeah.
I don't even know who this dude is. But I just love that we're thinking about passing the ball. Like, that just feels so anti-Bear. So, I was feeling pretty good about that. Like that. Okay, we are going to try to cater whatever this offense is for Caleb. Like, that's what it just kind of, that's the impression I got. I don't know if it was like a dead giveaway. I just, I don't know what it is about the Bears. They just always kind of disappoint me at the moments where I actually think I know exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of I didn't even let myself kind of like even think like, oh, this absolutely means Caleb, because I didn't want to do that to myself again. I just I kind of held off my reactions from it. I like that you thought it was the Caleb, because
Yep.
you're a little more knowledgeable when it comes to certain coaching trees and like styles. So the fact that you said, "Oh yeah, I think this is an indicator that we're drafting Caleb," makes me excited because I actually really want Caleb.
Yeah, no, I guess the counter to my point, because we'll never really know, is one of the things that Ryan Poles and especially Kevin Warren promised was just more modernization. Most teams have passing and run game coordinators. It just is what it is. So they could chalk it up to that too. But again, I don't think you do that if you're comfortable with where Justin Fields is as a passer, because you eventually graduate these guys to be something different. So I'm very excited. I think the other underrated thing about all this is a good amount of those guys, well, especially Thomas Brown in particular, he interviewed to be an OC. And I mean, maybe he just had to settle somewhere because the other OC positions either weren't of interest or he didn't get interviewed at all. But that's, in a good way, it's telling. Whatever is being said in this, with Eberflus, with Kevin Warren, with Ryan Poles, they're liking what they hear. Even if it's just simply like, look, we're getting Caleb and you get to ride his coattail. So his success is your success. Luke Getsy got a job because of Aaron Rodgers. Like, point blank period, that it is what it is. Same thing with Adam Gase. Adam Gase got jobs because of Peyton Manning. He got fucking 3 jobs because of Peyton Manning. Like, and like a halfway decent season out of Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Like you have a chance here to do something special. But I think I would also with that said is like you also have a chance to be a part of something, to be a part of the first time a Bears quarterback ever throws for 4,000 yards. Maybe it's not this year, it could be next year. That has to mean something
this year, baby.
Oh no, yeah,
it's
right.
It's
no,
happening. I'm convinced.
It very well
Playoffs,
well
4,000 yards, LFG.
I think my biggest, where I'm at with it right now, and this is where I want to throw it to you. We've knocked these hires out of the ballpark because if Eberflus sucks, we have 2 guys that have had head coaching interview experience. They've been considered for head coaching jobs in the past. They can immediate interim. Because I do think, remember when I asked you maybe 2 months ago now, a month ago, is there an answer to all this lack of continuity, where as soon as an OC is good, he's gone, and now it's weird with the other team because they still have to mesh. Now the team he left is weird because now that's a new guy. I think that's the answer, Nas, the more that I thought about it. I think the answer is exactly what the Raiders did. You want to keep the guys that you have. Now, if you have a great head coach, you're just going to have to live with coordinators leaving, but maybe you're not so sure about Eberflus. Maybe you're not so sure about Coach X, Y, and Z. Here's our guy. We have 2 guys that I do think could be head coaches after this year with the Bears if Eberflus sucks. But not only that, the other layer of it is Waldron comes in, Caleb throws for 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, 15 picks, whatever that. Because of that, he goes and he's the new head coach of the Panthers because they fired another coach. I think Thomas Brown just steps right up. He's not going to get too many head coaches. I mean, like, it's so, the way they even layered that, I have a hard time believing, connecting all the other dots and how meticulous I know Ryan Poles to be now, that wasn't on purpose.
100%. Yeah, this felt like a master plan had been drawn up.
Yes.
Right? Like, real thought was put into this in advance. Right? Like, yes, we are going through the motions. We're going to interview multiple people because we're going to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure we didn't miss anything. This felt very intentional. This did not feel random in any sort of way. So I'm in complete agreement with you that, and sometimes this causes an issue with well-established coaches. Like Mike Tomlin, I know for a fact, got Bruce Arians out of Pittsburgh because he did not like how close Ben and Bruce Arians were becoming. Like, but that's for a well-established Super Bowl winning coach. he's got that leverage. In Fluce's case, like he can't be like, oh yeah, we got to get rid of Waldron because like I'm not feeling the vibes between him and Caleb. Like it's more like, Fluce, what are you adding to this team? Oh, not much. Caleb, you want to keep Shane? Okay, see ya. So no, I definitely Poles, man, at every turn. At every turn, he is just checking the boxes, isn't
I
he?
know.
Like, guy knows what he's doing. Wow.
I know, but it's to a point where, again, we've had these conversations, and that's why the only move I can't defend is the Eberflus one. And if you want, we've all said this, if he winds up being right about him, we'll eat our fucking words. But we sort of see those breadcrumbs. But even if he's fucking dead wrong about it, he's gotten everything else right. He's gonna get the Caleb pick right. Like, he's just done too much right that you can't, like, you know. I think the only thing that would flip that is if he trades the number 1 pick and gives Justin $40 million prematurely. But even then, even in that scenario, not that I believe it, I'm just saying that would still have a chance to turn out to be the right move. If Justin just fucking balled out for 4,300 yards, like, not saying it would, I'm just saying like that would still be. So it's like he has so much cachet right now. He's built up so much trust with me in a manner that I've only felt towards Theo Epstein.
He's balling right now. Like, what he's actually done is he has made the Fluce hire look better.
Yeah.
Because he has actually elevated Fluce by doing what he's done. We are not going to see the warts in Fluce's game management skill until we're in the playoffs. He has created a scenario where he has acquired talent on the roster. He has acquired talent in the coaching staff. He's about to get a premier quarterback. We are going to be in a situation we've almost never been in. And we're going to probably compete for a playoff spot next year. My guess is we're going to make it in just based off parity, turnover, confidence, like all these kind of different factors that you rule in. I feel like we're going to the playoffs, and that's going to build a certain level of momentum. And we're not going to see the ineptitude of Fluce until we're in the playoffs. And then Poles is going to fire a playoff coach that he's not even going to look dead wrong for hiring Fluce. He's going to be like, oh, he fired a coach, and now he's going to look to get someone to take us to the next step.
Yep. And
instead of, oh, he hired a bum. That's a pretty amazing promotion, don't you think? Like, yeah.
No, I agree. And the other thing is, and I think this is an all-encompassing statement, but we've seen Poles already be cutthroat. He didn't have to trade Roquan. But granted, maybe he wasn't the best scheme fit, and maybe you should have tried him inside. There were things that I had, reservations on, but that was still a fucking bold-faced move that he made, and he fucking did it. And the same thing with Robert Quinn that year. That one made a little more sense. He's older, but still, the locker room loved him. People have been kept just for those reasons. And he was like, no, we're establishing a whole new culture that he won't even be here,
I haven't even heard Robert Quinn's name since
I know. The fact he got a 4th is kind of crazy.
It's kind of nuts, bro.
And so, thinking of he's going to do the same exact thing with Justin. He loves Justin. But it's a business side. It's a business thing. It is what it is. After they got their first win this past year, that embrace they had, that hug that they had, and the way he even continues to talk about Justin at press conferences, he likes him. We all do. But he's going to do the same thing there. I think it'll sting less because I think Justin will have a little bit of say in depending on how negotiations are going with draft. Like he's going to set him up for success at the next destination, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But again, look at the same way that he set the scenario up with Justin. Granted, they didn't know they'd have the number 1 pick, but they knew they'd be picking pretty fucking high. Everyone knew Carolina wasn't a playoff team. Doing the same thing with Eberflus. Waldron, Thomas Brown, you guys might be on your tail a little bit. Fluce, this is just business. Yeah. I love you. I hired you. We got the same agent. You probably know my wife. We probably have had family dinners together. Just a business, my brother. Like that's it. That's all it is. And like he's setting these things up, and like it's beautiful. It truly is.
I love it.
Yeah, I think Nas. You know what? The one thing that is going to be the most telling though for me this year is I'm really surprised that they kept the offensive line coach. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know exactly what he did in the Luke Getsy offense, but in the sake of having a whole new offensive coordinator who brings something vastly different to the table, Fuck, I had stats and things that I had written down, and they're like right next to me. I need to go grab them. But there was just so many times where the offensive line, they handled blitzes okay. PFF even graded them okay, but where they fucking were awful were stunts. As soon as a stunt was thrown at them, they were lost. And it was to a point where it was like, were they not doing any zone blocking at all? Like, it was literally like man-to-man blocking. So again, I don't know if we can pin that on him or if that was just a Luke Getsy. It's honestly, it was probably more of a Getsy thing because we've seen just ineptitude with things like that, having Trent Taylor block a defensive end one-on-one, like just weird shit, fucking having your fullback be the first read on a wheel route, like just really, really weird things that he did out there. But again, just for like lack of fresh start type of thing, I'm surprised the offensive line coach was retained, and that's just blindly not knowing what he did. Do you have the same vibes there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wondering, like, in the exit interviews for the season, like, I'm wondering if the O lineman just like went to bat for this dude. Like, do not, like, this guy knows what he's talking about, like, and that's like the kind of the only rationale I could like think of. It's like, why would you get rid of this entire staff and then keep this one dude for a line that at the end of the day, like, I definitely see talent on the line, but at the end of the day, I felt like they played pretty average.
Yep.
So, that's the only thing I could think of. I was like, it sounded personal, and there was some sort of something being said, someone lobbying for this dude to stay.
But yeah, I didn't even think of that. You could be right. I mean, because it's sort of the same thing that we've talked about, like with Ryan Poles, even after year one, and especially after his second off season, where it's like, even if the Bears didn't win this past year or make the play, like the philosophy is too strong with this guy. Like maybe that's the same thing with this offensive line coach. It's like he just has it, and the system just wasn't, for him. Nas, I don't think the Bears in my lifetime have ever been in a better spot than they are right now. I mean, because like, and I'm a pessimistic guy. I'm pessimistic by nature. In my therapy sessions, my therapist laughed at me because I told her I think I am pessimistic because of Chicago sports. Like, they made me that way. But again, like, the thing that I'm pointing to is Thomas Brown and Shane Waldron being on this coaching staff. That is nuts. Thomas Brown could have been an OC elsewhere. We're seeing Lester. Mm-hmm. We're seeing Luke Getsy get fucking Patriots interviews and Raiders interview. Like, this guy could, if Getsy's getting them, he surely, because he wasn't a bad play caller with the Browns or with the Panthers that year. So man, it's nuts. But you did touch on something that was a stark difference that I noticed with these teams in the playoffs versus what the Bears have. So I'm right there with you. I see the offensive line talent. I don't see what I didn't see enough of, and I don't know if it was a scheme or them. It's probably a 50-50 split because the interior seems to be pretty bad. But when I was watching the Niners run the ball, when I was watching even Detroit, seeing what David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were doing on inside runs, they were playing bully ball, man. They were playing fucking, but the 6 times that Baltimore ran it, that offensive line looked good.
Mm-hmm.
All the time that Lamar had in that pocket, I mean, fuck, I know Justin holds the ball too long. You give him that amount of time, he's pulling the trigger in a way that Lamar did not this past week. Like, those trenches on all 4 teams were fucking impeccable, and I just don't see the Bears there yet.
Honestly, this weekend, this is kind of slightly off topic. This is going to actually make me tangent into what we talked via text. This weekend made me say, let's draft more D linemen. I am so ready to just like have that be like the master piece, or the master key, like the master key for our whole team is D lineman. Because even a year removed, the Eagles and the Niners do not look the same. And they got, like you said, they got bullied. And we've been talking so much about receiver in that first round. And I've just been thinking, no, like, seeing how these teams are just getting bullied, we need to just keep investing in the D line, man. We cannot be like, oh, Sweat just finished the year so well and the D line looks so good to finish. And it's like, no, let's not rest on that. It's proven if you're going to play a 20-game season, you need reinforcements on the D line. And in the trenches.
No, I agree. And to be as crazy as it sounds, I feel like the O-line needs maybe a little bit more help than the D-line does. Because
Mhm.
let's just look position to position. Braxton Jones is hot or cold. I like him, though. I think you can, unless there's like a clear upgrade, you always keep the average left tackle. Because average left tackle is good everywhere. Like any other position group, you're phenomenal. Like they're so hard to come by. But that interior, dude.
Yikes.
Like, we need Nate Davis to have a turnaround. Like, that will be a really bad signing by Ryan Poles if he doesn't turn the thing around. But Whitehair, he's probably getting cut. I don't know if
Can't snap the fucking ball.
I know, but and like he's just I feel bad that I got very mad at him over the year, this past year, because he was one of the few bright spots, which is a fucking shame. Because the same thing was with Kyle Long. We have interior guys, when our down years some years ago where like they were really good. But he's past it, man. Because he even kicking him out to guard, he didn't have it anymore. He didn't have the pulling ability. He's not as good of a blocker as he was. He seems to be out of position. I think he's old. But then I don't know if you even retain like Lucas Patrick or Feeney or any of these dudes. Again, I touched on Nate Davis. The only guy that I'm solidified on is Darnell Wright. He's a fucking dog. And like
he's a stud.
He's a stud. But knock that pick out of the ballpark. And you look at the defensive line, especially since acquiring Sweat, Jervon Dexter on the rise. I love Billings. I love who's the other interior? There's another interior guy. I'm blanking on him. Not Pickens. There's one more in there that I enjoy. But like there's some stuff there. So you could probably even add another pass rusher or two in free agency. Maybe look into the third or fourth round to see if you can do something. Walker came along in the second once Sweat. I mean, like things were unlocked, things were multiplied once Sweat got there.
Yeah.
And the offensive line, it's like again we kind of got to squint even to like Braxton Jones. It's
yeah.
So I'm sort of there with you. I would love to have another receiver, but I almost feel like you have to bank on the system being so bad that it held back Mooney and Tyler Scott, and you probably go out and get a receiver in free agency, a receiver or two.
Fucking Mooney, god damn it.
I know,
dude.
I know. I was very upset with him,
Well,
but
I just want I also like DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. These guys are not first round picks. Like
I know.
I just feel like we can find receivers later in the draft. So I'm okay not taking someone at 9. I'm okay trading back from 9 and really replenishing both lines and still taking a late receiver. How is every other team drafting dudes in the 3rd through 5th round and they have all starters on their roster at receiver? And like we can't do it. We can't draft a first round receiver and have him be good.
I mean,
we can't even draft a 3rd round receiver and have him be good for multiple seasons.
I know. I feel like a lot of that has to do with just the scheme that the Bears have had, and it's not just one coach. We saw it with Nagy, and we saw it before him. We saw it before that guy, and we saw it before the guy before him. It just is what it was. And then, like, the only time we started to really unlock things was when Brandon Marshall got here. Then we had a semblance of an offense with Trestman, and then you unlocked quite a few dudes, but then the defense was bad. Like, for me, especially depending on if they get a stud at 9 at receiver, I'm expecting 2,000-yard receivers, counting that rookie. But if they don't, if they opt to what you did, take best tackle available or whoever, or trade down and get, an interior guy in the 20s maybe, that's where I'm going to judge Shane Waldron the most, is can you get the most out of the guys that are here? Because I'm not going to pretend I scouted Tyler Scott coming into the draft, but once I saw him, and like everyone renowned was like, we had him as a 2nd or 3rd rounder. The fact that he made it, the 4th or 5th is kind of insane because he was so productive at Cincinnati. And you could see it. A little on the smaller side, of course, but you still see it. Like he struggled with drops in college. You're going to have to clean that up. But the fact that you didn't get anything out of Mooney, who had 1,000 yards before, like that to me is not all, because maybe Fields could be a little, could have been better in certain scenarios, but just the scheme itself, I think it had more to do with that. But some things that I noted for Waldron after they made the hire, I think the two stats that I'm very excited about, because it just signifies change. The 3 years that he was the offensive coordinator with Seattle and calling plays, his breakdown from pass to run, 64% pass, 36% run.
Talk dirty to me.
But listen, so here it was. From 2021 to 2023, Seattle left the pocket 16.5% of the dropbacks, which is the 4th highest in the league. And again, not even knowing those stats, seeing what they did with Geno, having him consistently roll out, having him consistently. I mean, it also looked like it was coached in him to, hey, first, second, third read isn't there on this particular player. These set of plays, scramble, play backyard football. Like in a way that we didn't see that with Justin this year. And again, we would move on from him anyway, probably, but it's a sign of a good coach when you're doing these, when you see these types of things. It's a sign of a good scheme, of a good play caller, of a good, what did you put, like identity? You used the word identity earlier. Like it's a good identity to have. But especially just knowing like how good Caleb is throwing on the run, how quick his release is, how fast he's going to pull the trigger on things. Like I'm very excited to see that duo work together because I think it's going to be one of the better rookie quarterback campaigns that we've ever seen.
I mean, you see what Shane did with Geno and you're impressed. Let's not forget why Shane was in Seattle to begin with. One of the best to ever do it outside the pocket, Russell Wilson, personally requested Shane to be his OC. So it's like, I'm like, whatever you think of Russ now, fine. But the guy has pedigree and has played at an elite level in this league and wanted that guy. So also someone who rolls out, like, likes those kind of improv plays, not unlike Caleb. Caleb can throw on time, and another thing you know for certain that Caleb can do is throw off schedule.
The one that I thought you were going to bring up, that's a phenomenal point, but even before him, why did Russell Wilson want him? Shane Waldron was a part of the rebuilding of Jared Goff. After year one with the Rams, he came onto that staff as I have it noted, the passing game coordinator, which again is why I think Thomas Brown is the sign that they're moving on because they need to get this young kid up and going. And he was credited by Jared Goff and others on that staff with helping with that turnaround because we like where Jared Goff is now. You know, people can talk about the ceiling, blah, blah, blah. I think he's a borderline top 10 guy. He's a very good quarterback.
Played really well.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I was saying the other day, like, I never in my fucking life thought we'd be having a conversation that the receivers let Jared Goff down. Like, that's insane.
Yeah,
he was throwing
great.
yeah,
really
and they
did.
just were dropping the ball. But yeah, I mean, Shane was credited with that. Oh, what I was gonna say was, Jared Goff after his first year, people were talking historic bust because the hype around him coming out of college was insane, and he still has the arm talent to back up being number one in that draft. But like, he was awful that first year. And
well, don't forget Carson Wentz came out hot.
Yes.
Like,
oh, that's right. That's right.
So like that was at play. Then Carson comes out in year 2, plays at an MVP level. Like it was a big turnaround. I kind of actually forgot about that. And like, so you could put that on Shane's resume as well.
Yeah. So, no, again, all in all, I like the spot that the Bears are in. I do want to caution people that think they're getting like an offensive genius with Shane Waldron. Not even saying that he's not. But what I am saying is, you listen to some of the beat guys, and I know I said this a little bit earlier too, but like, he's going to have some times you're like, oh, why the fuck would you do that? You made the wrong play here. But we're getting this is a professional offense that we're going to get. And it's going to be all about how well Caleb can adjust to the NFL, the other weapons that are around him, offensive line play, obviously. But I don't think we're going to consistently say, like, what the fuck is this scheme right now? Like, because again, like, it's like, I don't care what anyone thinks about Justin Fields. You can think he's the worst quarterback of all time, worse than Tim Tebow. When you watch on the All-22 film that Luke Getsy's drawing up plays with 2, 3, sometimes 4 receivers in the same exact fucking area, we've noted on, having receivers and running backs just flat out being tasked with consistently blocking edge rushers. Just the amount of screenplays that he's called, like, we're so predictable. Like, that's not going to be a thing. So there are going to be things that you're going to be upset about because it is what it is. It's just what happens. But we're in a good spot with this offense. I'm curious to see where they add, because the one thing that I want to touch on as the offseason carries along here is just the running back room itself. Seeing those numbers, 64% pass, 36% run. Someone may be out of a job, Nas. Someone.
I think this is going to do wonders for our appreciation for Roshan. I think he's built for this, to be honest. As a blocker, receiver, guy never loses yards. Like, I think he's going to kind of thrive in this offense.
I would assume his reps would go up too, because it's kind of incredible that a rookie running back was the best blocking option at running back, for the Bears. And it's not only because Herbert and why am I blanking on the
Foreman.
Deontay Foreman were bad at it, but he's just legitimately good at it. Like, it wasn't like, oh, he's the I don't want to use the wrong idiom here, but it wasn't just comparing it to those around him. He's just legitimate. He graded well everywhere in that department. So you're right, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about with this hire, with what we think will be Caleb Williams at the helm. Nas, I feel like that's about it for this episode. Did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Not really. Just I've kind of, I will say, when you mentioned that you've never been like this excited for the Bears, it kind of feels like that time we won the NBA lottery and we knew we were getting Derrick Rose.
You're right.
It's like, it's kind of got those vibes. Like,
it does.
And I remember where I was, who I called right away when we got that lottery pick, and I was just like, it's got those vibes. And it was just like, oh, we have a franchise player to build around. Yeah, that's kind of my vibe right now. In terms of like to talk tos, nah, I got nothing right now. I think we'll make our Super Bowl picks next week, I'm assuming, and maybe we'll put in some betting stuff in. We'll throw in some props that we like.
I'm in for that. I'm totally in for that. Yeah, and I think I have a lot of ideas. Obviously, we'll flesh it out, but I'm thinking like position group by position group, seeing where the improvements need to come and sort of where we're good. That can be sort of a weekly thing. And we've always historically, done quarterback rankings, power rankings for this. Just get like really good with it. And then like once it really dwindles down, like I the one tradition I want to keep was last year we did an episode that was called like Who's the Most Random Bear You Can Think of. And it was literally just us naming people and like the memories that came, with it. And very fun episode. I feel like the more that I think about that, the more that come to mind. Like what was his name? Frank Omiali, the offensive lineman that was with us for like 17 years for no fucking reason at all. So yeah, the offseason is always way more fun to me than the actual season, because we get to be very creative. Hopefully that changes this year, where we're dreading an off season, but it hasn't been that way for quite some time.
Yeah, it would be nice to be in season and happy at the same time. Wonder what that's like.
Hopefully we get it. Hopefully we get it. All right, Nas. Everyone, thanks for listening. As usual, like, share, subscribe. We're everywhere that podcasts can be heard. We're only on YouTube for the video portion, so I don't anticipate that ever changing. But if we're not somewhere that you enjoy listening to, let us know. We'll get it up there. And we will see you all next week. Later, everybody. Later, Nas.
Yeah. Bye.